Hello, Brave Nation, and welcome to the 24th episode of BraveHawk Talk. I'm John Gross. It's finals week on campus, and that means that graduation is just around the corner. I want to congratulate all of our UNCP students on completing this very difficult semester, and also send a special shout out to those graduating. And if you're in town for graduation and need a place to stay, look no further than the Holiday Inn Express of Pembroke. Holiday Inn Express, the official hotel provider of UNCP Athletics. We're joined by two fascinating guests today. Mariel Mencia Martinez of the UNCP swim team and Christina Chow, the Assistant Athletic Director for Compliance. We'll start off with Mariel, a sophomore who holds the school record for the 50-yard freestyle. But her sights are set far beyond just UNCP. She's going for golds, literally. Here's this week's Scotland Health Student Athlete of the Week, Mariel Mencia Martinez.
Hey Mariel, first of all, thank you so much for joining me. I'm really excited to speak with you today.
Thank you.
You've had a lot of success as a swimmer here at UNCP, and I know at the international level as well. And I guess with any sport, you need to be able to stay in shape, but especially for swimming. How are you able to stay in shape and ready to swim through this quarantine period, especially over the summer?
Over this summer, I was every day doing workouts by my own, and that's what is helping to getting shape faster. Not faster, but kind of.
And where would you do those workouts?
While I was here, I was going to the track.
Can you give us an idea of what a typical workout would be for you over the summer and in preparation for the season?
Okay, I was running, and for swimming, it helps to do a stretch cord, like stretch bands, and that helps me a lot, like do a sprint too, because I'm a sprinter. And yeah.
Nice. That's a lot of tough stuff. I don't think most people would not be able to pull that off as frequently as you all do. And I know that your season started recently. You were able to get back into the pool and compete against Converse. And you set the school record. You broke your own record in the 50-yard freestyle, finishing in 23.89 seconds. So for you, what was it like to finally be able to get back into the pool and compete again?
It was good. I mean, I missed it. It felt good again to be competing, and the emotion of being in a competition.
When you go into the pool, are you thinking of, all right, I need to break my record, I need to, set a school record or whatever it may be, or are you just swimming out there?
No, every time that I swim, I just think about the time that I work for, the time that I want to do.
So you get to UNCP, you're originally from the Dominican Republic. Can you tell us a little bit about your journey to UNCP and how you ended up in Pembroke?
Well, I was training for 7 months in Florida, and my coach, my ex-coach, my coach from here, my ex-coach from Florida. So, I talked to him, and I met him when I came here for futures, and yeah, that's how I met him, and I came here because of him. I knew about Pembroke because of my coach.
And so you're originally from Santo Domingo, correct?
Yes.
So I've been there. I know it's a pretty big city, populous city, a few million people, and now you're spending your college years in Pembroke. What has the transition been like? Has it been tough to adjust to a different type of place that you're living in?
Yeah, it's been really tough like the language and like college in English because I never studied in English in DR. And without being without my parents too, it's been difficult.
So when did you, if you didn't study English in the DR, when did you start speaking English, or at least studying it?
I was going to an institute to study English, but most of the time, like I learned by myself, watching Netflix and listening to music in English.
That's amazing. Your English is phenomenal. So great job. Is there a specific Netflix show that you would watch that would really help you?
Grey's Anatomy.
You know, it's funny you say that because last week's episode we had Andrea Kuthral on, who's from the Braves Club, and she said she also talked about Grey's Anatomy. So it's a very popular show.
Yeah, it is.
Now, you talked a bit about the adjustment and how it's been difficult, being away from your family and English as your second language. But I know you're not alone in making this adjustment. There are a handful of international students on the swim team. Your head coach is from Italy as well. Has that helped you, that you've had other people who are not native to America on the team?
Yeah, that helped me a lot. Like, all of us, we're always together. If we need something, like, we understand each other. And, yeah, we share each other every day. And, yeah.
Yeah, I'd certainly imagine that would be helpful. And what's your relationship like with the American swimmers on the team? Do you I don't know whether it's learn about cultural things or just practice your English with them? How does that dynamic work out?
Yeah, I've learned new things with them, and the English too. While I talk to them, I learn more and more.
So originally from Dominican Republic, and I know that in addition to competing here at UNCP, you've also competed at the international level, representing your country. How were you able to qualify for that and be a part of the Dominican Republic swim team?
Oh, so I was in the national team since I was like 13 years old, and they do like a national meet. If we make those times, we can go to the international meet. So I went to one in Colombia, and I had to make the A card so I could go. That was to go to the Youth Olympics, and I make it, so I went.
Beyond that, I know everyone's goal as an athlete is to qualify in the Olympics. Is that something that you have your sights set on?
Yeah, yes.
How would you qualify for the Olympics? What's the process like to get in?
Okay, so there's some meets that I can go and make the times. There's 2 times. One is B, and the other one is A. If I do both, like, I can go. It doesn't matter. But I need to make it.
Now, is that something that you're preparing for to qualify for the Olympics coming up this summer or the following Olympics?
Oh, for this summer, yeah.
This summer. So when would you be competing to qualify?
In December, I have a meet. I'm not sure that I'm going, but I have a meet in Panama, and like to see how are my times. But if I make it there, I'm already in.
Wow, that's incredible. And what do you think that experience would be like for you to compete in the Olympics?
It would be amazing. I mean, it's my dream. It's one of my dreams.
Is there an extra motivation that you get when you're swimming, when you're representing your country?
I'm my own motivation.
Transitioning back to UNCP, I know the program is coming off of winning the conference championship last year, which was an incredible milestone for the team. What are the goals that you have personally for this season and for the team for this season?
Okay, so I want to make the cut to go to the NCAA Nationals Championship. I want to win like first in the 50 and 100 free in conference, and yeah, that's it.
And what about for the team? What are the goals that coach has set out for the team for this season?
Our goal is win the conference this year again.
Great. Well, that would be quite the repeat. Did it last year, and again, a really remarkable run last year, and again, high expectations for this season. We like to end with a fun question. Now, I know that you have plenty of experience swimming in a pool, but if you could choose, would you rather spend time swimming in a pool or spend time swimming in the ocean?
Oh, in a pool, yeah, in a pool.
Do you like swimming in the ocean?
No, I mean, I've done it before, but I prefer the pool.
Why?
It's different. It's different. In the ocean, it's harder because of the waves and the fishes.
Well, I can't blame you for that. Mariel, thank you so much for your time. Best of luck this season, and best of luck in December in Panama. We'll certainly be rooting for you.
Thank you. Thanks to you.
Thanks again to Mariel, and best of luck moving forward. Hey, if you're looking for a bite in town, McDonald's of Pembroke is the place to be. Personally, I'm a big fan of the strawberry smoothie, but of course there are plenty of great options to satisfy your hunger. Ba-da-ba-ba-ba, I'm loving it. Christina Chow is in her second year as UNCP's Assistant Athletic Director for Compliance and is the department's Senior Women Administrator. She's had quite the journey from playing against UNCP as a college volleyball player to now working here. So let's check in with Christina Chow. Christina, first of all, thank you so much for joining me. Really excited to have you on BraveHawk Talk today.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
So your official title is the Assistant AD for Compliance. You are the Senior Women Administrator. Can you give us an idea of what exactly your job entails?
Yeah, so I work with all of our student athletes and coaches regarding NCAA rules. And I'm also sort of the liaison to other departments on campus. So if our student athletes or coaches have any questions about housing or meal plan or their student accounts, or if they have any issues and maybe they need to go speak with CAPS or Title IX, I'm sort of the liaison to help kind of connect them with that department or get them answers to questions that they might have regarding any issues with those departments.
You mentioned that a major part of your role is focused on NCAA regulations and conference rules and regulations and policies. I've always been fascinated by that, and we've talked about that in the past, but there seems to be so much gray area in a lot of rules, right? So how do you make sure that you're able to stay on top of all these rules and know how to apply which rule to which situation?
Yeah, so, well, first off, the NCAA has, like, their, bylaws and their manual. So first, I always utilize that first. There's also, like, a search database that the NCAA gives to, like, compliance directors. So sometimes there might be, like, interpretations or ed columns that come out in later years after, pertain to a specific bylaw, so you can kind of use that as guidance. Anytime I have any specific questions or I may be confused about something, I can also reach out to our conference liaisons who work in compliance. They can kind of help me kind of to divulge into the rules a little bit more. Also, if it's like a question that our conference liaisons don't have an answer to, I can always send in like an NCAA interp directly to the NCAA, and then kind of let them answer any questions I might have, or, like you said, the gray area, like kind of figuring that out and sorting that.
And in addition to following NCAA policy, you have the responsibility of knowing two different conference rules, right? The PBC and the MEC, and that'll continue into next year with Conference Carolinas and the Mountain East Conference. How difficult is that to know those set of rules? Are there big differences between the two conferences?
It has definitely been interesting. So I know you mentioned both PBC and Mountain East, but because we are also participating in track and field, indoor track and field with the Conference Carolinas, I've actually had to work with them a little bit as well. So with us joining the Conference Carolinas, that pertains to me kind of being involved in 3 different compliance meetings. So I have my MEC compliance meetings on Mondays, and then my PBC compliance meetings on Thursdays, and then every other Wednesday we do a Conference Carolinas compliance meeting. So it's definitely a full schedule, and I am very much looking forward to the time where we are back in just 1 or possibly 2 conferences and not having to deal with so many rules. But yeah, it's been definitely interesting. There are little differences between the conferences. A lot of it's the same, but some of their bylaws are a little different depending on the types of institutions in each conference. So for example, the Peach Belt is really made up of public schools, right? Whereas the Conference Carolinas and the Mountain East conferences are made up of private schools. So sometimes a lot of that has to do with their bylaws and comes into play with how those ADs vote on those bylaws and stuff like that. So it's definitely been interesting, especially this year with all 3.
And especially this year with COVID-19 as well. I mean, that's impacted everyone across the globe, and I'm sure that's had an impact on your position here at UNCP and kind of some of the rules that you have to follow on top of everything else. How has COVID-19 changed your job?
Oh, it's made it extremely busy. I kind of mentioned previously that we have weekly compliance meetings. That was not a thing until COVID-19. We may have had monthly meetings. So because of all the changes in NCAA rules, just for COVID-19 exceptions and stuff and waivers being granted, there's just constant change, specifically when COVID first happened. So back in March, I would say they were coming out with new waivers and new legislation on a weekly basis throughout the summer. Then once school started, it slowed down, but I would say at least once a month they come out with a couple of new waivers or some more information just related to COVID and how to deal with that. So
I want to go back a bit to your college years. You went to Armstrong State, which is now part of Georgia Southern, correct?
It is.
And you played volleyball there. Very successful program there. You made the NCAA tournament 4 years, 3 Peach Belt Conference regular season titles, I believe a couple of conference tournament titles as well. What was that experience like for you?
Oh, it was awesome. Definitely enjoyed my college experience. I couldn't have chosen a better school or a better team to be a part of. It's super exciting. I always felt when you're a college athlete, your goal is to always be better the next year, and that was definitely something that we were able to achieve. Like you said, conference championships were the last 3 years, so that first year, freshman year, was a little rough, but definitely got better each year, and we definitely progressed. I think my senior year, we ended up making it to the Sweet 16, which was pretty cool.
Do you remember playing UNCP? Did you come to play at UNCP at all during your time at Armstrong?
Yes, we played here every year. I specifically remember, I can't remember what year it was. It may have been my freshman year. But UNC Pembroke actually came to Armstrong, and we had lost against them. And I actually very much remember that experience because my coach was not happy at all about that. And I won't go into too much details, but I still sort of have nightmares about some of the punishments that came along with that loss. So,
Wow.
Yeah.
Clearly a great college experience, great student-athlete experience. How do you feel that your time as a student-athlete prepared you for your post-grad career?
I definitely think it gave me like the insight on what like collegiate student athletes go through every day. I feel like I can relate to them, especially like the time management, having to deal with like athletics and being on a team and being in season and also kind of balancing your grades and then having like a life outside of athletics. And just kind of knowing how like they feel. So anytime a student athlete comes to me with an issue, I feel like it's just easier to relate to them because I was a former student athlete. It was kind of funny that you asked this question because a couple weeks ago, I traveled with women's golf 2 weekends in a row. And a couple of the girls came to my office and was like, a few of the girls are all nervous about you traveling with us because like they don't know like if they can talk in the van or like should we like watch what we talk about. I'm like, you guys, like I was a student athlete before, like don't forget, like you guys just be normal, like it's totally fine. Like I'm not here to like judge you guys hardcore or anything like that. Like I'm just here to be helpful. Like I'm not here to like get you guys in trouble or anything like that. So
And it's funny you bring that up because so many people who work in college athletics were student athletes themselves at the college level. Everyone seems to have a different reason for why they wanted to get into college athletics, but for you, why college athletics?
yeah, so I actually got my bachelor's in sports in rehabilitation sciences. And I wanted to go into physical therapy because I wanted to work with athletes on sort of the medical side and like the rehab side because I'd been injured a couple times during college. But then I did my internship hours where like you actually have to go in and like work in a clinic and stuff like that. And I didn't enjoy it as much as I thought I would. So I actually had a conversation with my compliance director when I was in college. She's actually the AD at Young Harris now. But I kind of told her, I was like, I kind of like what you do, Jen. I like how you have come in and just kind of like have worked with our student athletes and how you're a resource when we have questions. And she was also the SAC advisor, which I'm the SAC advisor here too. And I just liked our like relationship that we had because I always felt like she was a good resource to go to, especially if I didn't feel comfortable going to like financial aid or if I didn't feel comfortable like going to a specific office that I didn't know anyone in. So she suggested that I get my master's in sports administration, and I'm from Georgia, so there's only 2 programs in Georgia at the time that had like a master's program in sports administration. So it was either Georgia Southern or Georgia State up in Atlanta. So I decided to apply for that program and I got in. And honestly, I just chose Georgia State because of, I guess, the opportunities that were in Atlanta with all the different colleges and professional teams that were in the area. So it worked out.
And right past that Georgia State experience, you stay in that Atlanta area working at Georgia Tech. So you go from D2 undergrad, D1, and now back to D2 at UNCP. What are some of the biggest differences that you've noticed between working at those D1 schools and their compliance offices and at the D2 level?
Well, the biggest difference is like the resources for sure. In Division 2, we just have fewer resources than they do in Division 1. So, in Division 1, they have these big nutrition centers, big weight rooms, like all this nice stuff. We have, academic advisors for every team that travel with every team, that work with every team. So that's just like, I think the main difference is just the amount of resources that Division 1 has compared to us. But I decided to come back to Division 2 because I felt like there was a lack of resources in Division 2, and I wanted to be able to work with the Division 2 athletes who didn't have everything that those Division 1 schools did. And I also felt like I could maybe help a program just like move up and maybe develop those types of resources, maybe not to that extent, but to a similar extent that those Division 1 schools have.
I want to circle back to something you mentioned earlier, that when you were an undergrad, you went to the compliance officer at Armstrong State, and that kind of put you on the track to work in compliance. Now, if there's a student athlete that were to come to you and say that they want to work in college athletics, what would your advice be to them?
So the first thing that they should know is that they probably aren't going to get paid much for a very long time. That is like the one key thing that I would tell every person who wants to work in some sort of athletics, just to like be completely honest. Like you should know what you're getting into. There are a lot of long hours with a very little pay. So you need to definitely like budget your time and your finances wisely if you plan to work in college athletics, because that is definitely something that you will need.
But would you say it's all worth it?
Oh, for sure, for sure. I mean, you definitely have to put in the hard work, but it's definitely worth it. I mean, I couldn't imagine working in another atmosphere. There's nothing more rewarding to be able to see like your student athletes compete on the court, and then in 4 years like graduate and walk across the stage and be doing like a job that they love, whether it's nursing or teaching or whatever they want to do.
Christina, final question for you. We like to end with a fun, thought-provoking question. The NCAA has a whole bunch of strange rules, and I know there have been a lot of crazy compliance stories to come out of college athletics. Are there any specific rules or stories that stand out to you in your experience?
So these stories don't exactly relate to like my specific experience, but in compliance we do a lot of rules education with like our student athletes and our coaches. When I was at Georgia Tech and even at Georgia State, we did like a monthly rules ed session. And one of my colleagues at Georgia Tech would always tell the story every year about a couple students, and this would, years past, who had played under a different identity. So there was a student, I won't name the universities, but there was a student, and this was a long, long time ago, like probably like in the 70s, 80s. But he basically like created like a whole set of documents and walked onto this team's football field. And was like a walk-on on the football team. But he was like 40 years old, which in Division II, that's totally possible to like, there's not like an age requirement, but in Division I, there's a 5-year clock. So to have a 40-year-old on the field with a bunch of 18 to 21-year-olds was definitely not allowed in Division I at the time.
Wow.
Yeah, and there was actually another story that he always references when he teaches about using, like the honesty and like ethical conduct and stuff like that. There was a tennis coach at another university who had an injured player, and he basically traveled one of his best players who happened to be ineligible under the injured player's name. Yep. So those are just a couple weird stories. This was all in Division I. I do know that this happened in Division II a couple years ago at a Division II institution where an ineligible student athlete competed under the name of an injured player because he was ineligible as well. So I've only known of this happening like 2 or 3 times, but it's crazy to think that people would do that. Or, I guess it would be easy with football because you're under, a helmet and maybe like they can't see you or anything, but to kind of get away with that. I can't imagine in tennis because, I feel like you would know what someone would look like.
Right, and tennis teams are fairly small. Were these situations like caught immediately, or did they end up playing and then they were caught after the fact?
I think they were caught after the fact.
Wow.
I know the Division II one was like a major infractions case, so I'm pretty sure that student probably played in a few games. And yeah, but I mean, even if I was the injured person, like, and I feel like if my name showed up in like a news article or like a statistics sheet, I would be, I don't know, I feel like I would raise some questions about that, unless that student was in on it too. I don't know.
Right, and even if they were in on it, that's a risk, because if this person loses, that looks bad on you. But who knows?
Yeah.
People will go to crazy lengths to find success, I guess. But Christina, thank you so much for your time, and thanks for all you do for the athletic department.
Yeah, thanks, John.
Thanks so much for tuning in today. A reminder to follow us on all of our social media platforms to stay up to date on everything UNCP. You can find us at UNCP_sports. And if you're listening to this podcast, make sure to subscribe to our YouTube page. You're on our YouTube page now, so just hit that subscribe button. We'll be back next Wednesday. Until then, have a great rest of your week, and remember to mask up.